Is it just me, or we can hear Dayal Gauranga Prabhu?
No sound.
No sound. Yeah, we can hear you, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu.
I'm here.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay.
I just had
we can
to
hear you now.
I just had to reposition for 10 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, Hare Krishna. I will start with just a simple Jai Radhamadhava. Jaya Radhamadhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janava Lava Girivardhara Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitanjena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pongam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome and thank you so much for being here, and thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be with you all this morning. We shall be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 15, entitled The Meeting of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva, verses 44
10,
through
15th canto, that's a demon. That's the killing of the demon.
I'm looking at chapter 5, sorry. I clicked chapter 5
15.
instead of 15. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, the killing of Dhenuka, the ass demon. Yes, we were in this chapter last week. Verses, the killing of Dhenukasura, the ass demon, verses 44 through 46. So 44, 45, and 46. Okay, Hare Krishna. Let's go ahead and do this. Tayor Yashoda Rohina Putrayo Putra Vatsale Yatha Kaman Yatha Kalam Vyadhatam Paramashisha. Translation: Mother Yashoda and Mother Yohini, acting most affectionately towards their two sons, offered all the best things to them in response to their every desire and at the various appropriate times. Who are the two sons? Anyone?
Krishna Balaram.
Krishna Balaram. Krishna Balaram. And who's the mother of who?
Mother Yashoda is the mother of Krishna. Rohini is the mother of Balaram.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And they both share the same father, right? Vasudeva is the father of both. Although Nanda Maharaj is the father of Krishna also. Okay. Acting most affectionately towards their two sons, offered all the best things to them in response to their every desire and at the various appropriate times. It's an interesting contrast of verses here, in the sense, offered all the best things to them in response to their every desire. That we learn when in deity worship or when we're serving Krishna, we should be offering the best things to Krishna, the best of what we like. And at the same time, we also want to offer Krishna what he likes. And so our acharyas go through great painstaking detail to describe to us the things that Krishna likes. And we set up our worship and things in those ways to satisfy Krishna's desires at the various appropriate times. Let's see what it says in the purport. The word Paramashisha indicates the attractive blessings of a loving mother, which include wonderful food, beautiful clothes, jewelry, toys, and constant affection. The words yata kaman, yata kalam indicate that although Yashoda and Rohini satisfied all the desires of their sons, Krishna and Balaram, they also properly regulated the boys' activities. I imagine that's in response to their every desire and at the various appropriate times. So there's a balance of giving them whatever they want, but also regulating it according to the proper time. In other words, they prepared wonderful food for their children, but they saw to it that the boys ate at the proper time. Similarly, the children would play at the proper time and sleep at the proper time. The word yata kamam does not indicate that the mothers indiscriminately allowed the boys to do whatever they liked, but in proper, civilized way, they showered their blessings upon their children. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments, the mothers loved their sons so much that as they embraced them, they would carefully check all their limbs to see if they were healthy and strong. Hare Krishna. A couple of things. First is that you see the sense of, again, this mood of Vrindavan, of what it means to be reading the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, where is here in I'm here in the Governor Eco Village, and this morning Raghunath was speaking at a sangha, and he was reading from a song that describes Krishna's turban and his peacock feather and his crown of jewels, and he was saying that Krishna wears it like a little bit of a tilt, almost like to the side, and his head is cocked to the side. And Lord Vishnu's crown is not at all crooked, or Vishnu's crown is very straight and very regal. But Krishna's threefold fending form is crooked. Krishna's crown is a little crooked. His peacock is often angled a little bit like that. And so Krishna is in that more approachable, casual mood. And so the residents of Vrindavan have a unique position where they're taking care of Krishna. The residents of Vrindavan are taking care of Krishna, and they feel that responsibility to make sure that he's eating well, that he's sleeping well, that he's playing properly, that he's getting along with the other kids, that he's getting enough exercise, and that mood and that sentiment, and how beautiful it is that God wants to experience that God wants to give us the opportunity to offer that to him. Here in the Govardhan Eco Village, I'm teaching these two books, The Nectar of Instruction and The Nectar of Devotion. The Nectar of Devotion is a summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And so Prabhupada in the preface of the book describes the meaning of the word Bhakti Ras. And that Ras, that relationships, according to Rupa Goswami, are like a fruit. Relationships are like a fruit. And rasa is like the juice that comes from that fruit. And so earlier today, someone was eating a pomegranate. And it's like sometimes you travel to another country outside of America, even in places in Europe, or especially you come to India, and you eat a fruit, and it's like, I've never tasted a fruit like this before. It's just like an orange. But it's just so fresh, and it's so like untinged by just like the factory farming that we go through, and like just kind of industrial agriculture, so somebody was eating a pomegranate, and they're just like all the ways, like normally you eat a pomegranate and it's like this, and it's like this, and it's like this, and they're like, I think pomegranate's my new favorite fruit. even though they've eaten pomegranate before, because it's just so, the juice is so flavorful and it's so luscious and it's just so tasteful. And so there are different kinds of fruits, and the juice is where we extract the flavor. The juice is where we extract the flavor. And so rasa is compared to that juice of a fruit that gives a particular flavor. So a relationship is compared to the fruit. And the flavor of experience, the flavor of love in that relationship is compared to the fruit. And so as living beings, we subsist off and we yearn for rasa. It's the experience that we all yearn for. And Prabhupada contrasts in the preface of the Nectar of Devotion the difference between mundane rasa and bhakti rasa. So mundane rasa is what we try to extract from the material world. And it's defined as being bhoga tyaga and chapala sukha. Bhoga tyaga means that we indulge and then we repel. We indulge and then we fast. We have intense enjoyment and then it's not what we thought it was going to be, or we get bored of it, or it backfires in some way, or it has some negative repercussion that we weren't anticipating, and then we give it up and we just like, I never want to do that again. But then we feel empty and we're looking for something else, and so we dive back into it, or we look for something else but similar, and we end up as as Prahlad Maharaj describes in the Bhagavatam as chewing the chewed. Chewing the chewed. It's like a piece of gum that you put in your mouth and you chew it and you chew it and you chew it, and when it's done, you spit it out. But then you're still yearning for some sort of juice and flavor, so you pick up that old piece of gum and you start chewing it again and again and again and again and again and again, and you're just chewing even though there's nothing there, but you're just convinced, well, I have to find it somewhere, and so you keep looking in that empty cupboard for something that's just not there. So mundane rus, that's temporary and unfulfilling and not conducive for the satisfaction of the soul, as a relation to bhakti ras, which is the eternal flavor of relationships that Krishna exchanges with his devotees. And so a child and a parent have a particular type of flavor of love, a parental relationship, and the child experiences a different flavor of juice than the parent experiences. Even a mother experiences it differently than a father would. And siblings have a particular type of relationship, and friends have a particular type of fruit that gives off a particular type of juice, of a flavor. Intimate romantic lovers have a particular flavor of relationship that's different from that of parents, it's different than that of friends. And so Vrindavan is that place, it's that environment where God allows himself to take on and taste, and the devotees perform that service. Krishna wants to taste all of these amazing, wonderful pomegranates and mangoes and papayas and pineapples and passion fruits of our love. But he needs devotees that are trustworthy. He needs devotees that would be willing to exchange that with him and not take advantage of him, not exploit him, because it tinges the experience of that love when it's not pure. And so that rasa in Vrindavan is so unique, and Krishna can't get it anywhere, where Krishna actually, the devotees feel like they have to take care of him. And it's a very, very special flavor of love that Krishna yearns for. So the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam is very special in that experience. So that's one aspect taking place. And the second one is the idea of everything in its own time. And so even the idea of serving somebody, even in the material sense, doesn't mean just letting anybody do whatever they want. And so similarly, Krishna for us also gives us regulations in order to live our life in, as what's mentioned here in the purport, a civilized way. And so regulation, that even enjoyment requires a certain level of regulation. Because if we just go a little too unfettered, we go off the deep end. So these two aspects are there. Anybody want to share a reflection or ask a question or share a reflection or thought on your own before we move on? We have 2 more verses to go. But this is what's taking place here. Mother Yashoda and Mother Rohini, the father of Krishna and Balaram, are displaying intense affection towards their sons, and they're giving the best of what they have according to their desires. We don't serve Krishna according to our desire, we serve Krishna according to his desire. Anyabhilasha-shunyam jnana karmajanavartam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttamam. With the desire to serve Krishna. And so we study Krishna's likes and his dislikes from people that know him well. And we want to offer the best of what we can to Krishna. And it doesn't have to be anything overly magnanimous and to the top. Can anybody think of an example of when something very simple was offered to Krishna, but he accepted it with full heart and relish?
Patram pushpam, phalam toyam, yome bhakti prayachiti, tadaham bhakti uparitam. I messed it up.
Ninth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It's a beautiful verse. One offers me love and devotion, a leaf, a flower, fruit, and water, I will accept it. The word bhakti is used twice in that verse, love and devotion twice. That's the principle. Does anybody know an example? Like an example of somebody that did that in Shastra?
Vidura and his wife.
Sorry?
Sorry, go ahead, Champa.
Is that Jamuna Jaya?
Yeah.
I was going to say the exact same thing. So you go for it.
Okay. I'm thinking of the pastime of Vidura and his wife offering the banana skin instead of the banana in their enthusiasm.
Yeah. What did Krishna think of that banana skin?
He loved it.
It was tasty. And what did he turn down before tasting that banana skin?
All of the stuff that Duryodhana had to offer him.
All the stuff Duryodhana wanted. And why did he turn down all the stuff from Duryodhana?
Because it wasn't offered in the proper mood. Duryodhana was trying to manipulate him and get him on his side. But Duryodhana and his wife were just offering it out of love.
They were trying to manipulate Krishna to try to fulfill some sort of desire of his. And so Krishna didn't want to taste it. Is there another example? There's another one. Yes, there is. There are many, but there's one more that I'm thinking of.
The jungle lady, the fruit lady.
Fruit lady. Tell me the story of the fruit lady.
She was trying to sell fruits, and Krishna grabbed a bunch of fruit from her plate, and then she started giving him more and more and more selflessly. And then all of a sudden, she looks down into her bowl and sees that it's full of jewels and stones and things.
Where do the jewels come from?
From Krishna.
But what did he bring as an exchange for the fruits?
Oh, it's a handful of rice. Yeah.
Brought a handful of rice, and he put a handful of rice, and he was running. And as he was running, the rice was slipping through his fingers. By the time he got there, there's just a few grains of rice, and she's like, "Yes, you take my fruits."
Yeah.
And it turned into a giant. Yeah. There's a beautiful picture of that in the temple room of the Bhakti Center.
Tell us what she did with those jewels afterwards, when she finally realized that they were actually there.
Do you want to tell us?
Anybody know? Yes, she tossed them in the Jamuna. According to I can't remember. Jiva Goswami wrote, or maybe it was Vishwanath, wrote that she did not want. She actually kind of went crazy after that, and she didn't want anything to do with the jewels. She tossed them in the Jamuna River, and in order that her love not be tainted by the idea that she would receive something, and she needed more of she wanted the excuse to go back and see him again and again. Apparently, she would consistently bring fruits after that.
If anyone happens to be in Vrindavan and goes diving in the Jamuna River, maybe there's some jewels in the bottom there. If you're looking to profit from your devotional service.
Hare Krishna, I would like to add one more example if there's
Yes,
time.
please. Of course, Ananda Manjari.
So this is not with Krishna, this is actually with Lord Chaitanya, and I cannot remember the name of the person, but I remember the circumstance when there was a very poor person who brought him a bag of chipped rice, like the bottom of rice, that his wife gave him to go and ask for like support, and he actually grabbed that rice and ate it with so much pleasure, and really enjoying that, tasting this sweetness of the love of that devotee towards him. Even though the devotee was so ashamed and really wanted him to stop, there was so much of that, the spice of love that just couldn't be seen with the material eyes.
Thank you, Ananda Manjari. That sounds like the story of that Jamunajai put in the chat of Sudama. Sudama in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam was sent by his wife to get some support from Krishna, but he was too ashamed because he didn't have anything. Sometimes the story says that they didn't even have enough clothes to both go outside at the same time. They only had one pair of clothes that they had to borrow from each other, and only one could go out at a time. And so Sudama went out, and he wasn't even going to offer it to Krishna, but Krishna saw something a little tucked away in his cloth, and he said, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, it's nothing." He said, "Oh, what is it?" "It's just a little gift we brought for you." And he took it, and he was so pleased and satisfied that when the poor Brahmin went back, his home had turned into a palatial, to a palace. And he was rewarded in so many ways. And I love what you mentioned, Bhima Prabhu, the idea that when devotees receive these things, it's almost like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I've already gotten the greatest treasure. It was Dhruva Maharaj in the 4th canto that had the realization after Vishnu appeared to him. It's like, I was searching for the broken pieces of glass in this material world when I had at my fingertips the diamond of your loving devotional service. So he prayed to Krishna with material desires, that when Krishna appeared to him, when Vishnu appeared to him personally, he was like, what? He didn't even, Vishnu granted his material desire, but didn't even want it anymore. And so, so devotees also are careful not to accept too many material indulgences, because it could be an impediment to our spiritual life. Jamunajai is also putting the story of Lord Ram and the old woman with the fruit. A lot of fruits, a lot of fruit exchanges, fruits and rice, bananas, fruits.
I have
rice.
a flower story.
A flower story from Gail. Let's hear it.
But it's like so simple that I'm embarrassed to kind of share it, and it's.
You're like Sudama, who was embarrassed to give his offering to Krishna. But it's the sweetest offering. I know it.
Even though it's too simple, but it was so exciting for me that's why I wanted to share it. Well, and it happened right there at the Bhakti Center. So one day, I really wanted to offer this flower to Srila Prabhupada, and so I gave it to him, but I didn't feel qualified to actually put it in his hand, so I left it like near his hand or somewhere near his hand, I guess, and then I went to the loft part of the Bhakti Center for some time, and then when I came back, I saw that someone had actually put that flower into his hand, and when I saw that, it was like I just felt like he accepted that flower. It was just such a special experience, and I never forgot that, so.
That is so sweet, Gail. That is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Every time I look at a flower, every time I offer a flower to Srila Prabhupada, I'll say, please accept this the way that you accepted Gail's flower.
Just one other thing, Prabhu, is that, yet last night I offered Krishna a pomegranate for the first time in decades, because, it's a lot of trouble to cut up and
they're not easy fruits.
They're not easy fruit, And so the last time I had done it was I don't know, it must be a couple of decades ago or something. And so what are the chances, as soon as I chime into your class, which was a little late, that's the thing that you're talking about.
Talking about pomegranates.
So I said, oh my God, were you like a fly on the wall in my house last night?
No, I have a camera set up.
It was like such a sweet connection right away. As soon as I chimed in, that's what you were talking about, pomegranates.
And Krishna
So,
said, somebody had a pomegranate. It was they said it was the most tasty pomegranate they ever had in their life.
well, no, they
Krishna's
were totally mundane because I actually had to add juice to it to make it more
to make it flavorful.
more
Yeah.
flavorful. Yeah.
Well, that's the nature of mundane Ras. They're so
Yeah.
lacking in flavor. We try to
Yes.
spice it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There's another quick story I'd like to share, Gauranga,
Please,
with your
please,
permission.
Ananda Bihar.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada was giving class at 26 Second Avenue, and a homeless person walks in wearing a raincoat and a disfigured hat, and walks past Srila Prabhupada and puts 2 rolls of toilet paper on the floor and then a bunch of paper towels on the sink at 26 Second Avenue. And then he clears his throat and walks away. And everybody, the disciples were thinking that this person was a disturbance, and they were, looking at Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, see, his devotional service has just begun. Don't never minimize anyone, effort to please the spiritual master.
Yeah.
So just wanted to share that.
Thank you for that beautiful, beautiful story. I love how we began with Bhagavatam and stories, and then we kind of got to Gail's practical experience at the Bhakti Center, to Prabhupada's early days at Second Avenue, all the way from the historic to the present. And how much should we be attentive to appreciate the service of devotees? How much should we be attentive to appreciate the service as devotees, to make a sadhana of it? Our life will enrich when we take on the practice of learning how to appreciate the service of devotees. The smallest thing, because Krishna appreciates that service. Krishna is so sensitive that he can taste, he can, they have like those old fairy tales of like a princess that was disturbed. She sat on like 100 mattresses and there was a little pea underneath the bottom mattress, and it was disturbing her because if she felt the disturbance of the pea underneath 100 mattresses, or some old fairy tale story about stuff like that, like they can't get comfortable with the slightest discomfort. Is so sensitive. Krishna is that sensitive. He can taste the smallest, slightest of offerings, and everything else gets washed away with the sands of time. And so, but your service is eternal. It's immortal. It Bhakti Ras Amrita Sindhu. Ras Bhakti Ras Amrita. Amrita means immortal. Mritu, like we get the word mortal. Mritu means death. Amrita, immortal. It means it never goes away. And so Krishna accepts that offering, the smallest of offerings, and he fans that spark. Srila Prabhupada had that great gift where he would learn how to accept the smallest and simplest of offerings and see the potential of every living being to awaken their natural loving propensity to serve Krishna. And so we should learn to appreciate the devotees of others in a deep way, and it will enrich our spiritual life. And we should also learn to recognize our own ability to offer service to Krishna and know that Krishna is accepting our offerings. Krishna is accepting your offering. Krishna, it doesn't have to be some big fancy thing that a bunch of other people notice and recognize. It doesn't need to go on social media. It doesn't need to be praised by other people. It doesn't need to look better than others people externally, etc., etc. It doesn't have to gain a certain number of followers or whatever it may be. Krishna's accepting the simplest of things at every level.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
the jungle lady wasn't live streaming or anything. Just
Jungle
hungry.
Leda was not live streaming her story. She was not standing like on Instagram live dumping the jewels that I just received from Krishna, dumping into the Jamuna River because I don't need them anymore. What is something you're letting go of in 2023? We all do that a little bit, but she wasn't live streaming. She was just genuinely so amazed that Krishna accepted something that she gave her, and she just wanted to give it again and again and again. And one of my favorite stories is the story of Kolavecha Sridhar from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, who was so poor. He sold banana leaves in Mayapur, where there were banana trees everywhere. He was so poor, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come but he was a great devotee. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come and he would bargain with Kolavecha Sridhar to give him a better price. And Kolavecha Sridhar was like, I'm already giving such a low price. Like, how are you asking me for like a discount? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be like, you're charging too much. You must give me a better price. And they would bargain. And there's a lot of details of the story that are very beautiful, but ultimately at the end of the day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recognized the love of Kolavecha Sridhar and he asked for a benediction, to give him a benediction. And Kolavecha Sridhar said, I don't want anything, but if you insist, I beg that every day that young boy Nimai will come and bargain with me to buy banana leaves. And so, the simplest of offerings, the simplest of exchanges, he was tasting the rasa, he was tasting the fruit, the juice of that relationship of love between him and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's the reward for devotees. That's the ultimate reward. And if we're seeking something else, we'll miss out. We'll just miss out. We talk all this stuff about material desires and all this stuff and get down on it. It's not to make us feel bad about ourselves. It's just a warning, like, don't miss out. Don't settle for something so much less. Don't miss out. Don't cheat yourself. If you're looking for material enjoyment, if you're looking for recognition, you'll get that, but that's all you'll get. You can get your material desires filled. There's ways to do it. Krishna even warns Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that the majority of Vedic literatures are actually how for people to fulfill material desires in a dharmic manner. I've got desires. Here's how you can fill them in a way in a way of integrity, but you're still fulfilling material desires. And Krishna says, become aloof from these three modes of nature and the flowery words of the Vedas, because you can get your desires fulfilled, but that's all you'll get. And so there's a principle they say that don't ask a rich person for small things. And so Krishna is willing to offer us the simplest, most beautiful of things. We just have to learn to be satisfied with it. Like Kolavecha Sridhar, like Sridham, like the fruit vendor, like Vidura, just simply accepting Krishna's love. That's what we're looking for, that fruit juice, that rasa of the love of Krishna. Okay, let's read the next two verses. Let's see, maybe there's no purport, so we'll just read these. Katadvana shamal tatra majanon mardanadibihi nivim vashitva ruchiram divyashra gandhamandito. By being bathed and massaged. Imagine giving Krishna and Balaram massages. Transcendental. By being bathed and massaged, the two young lords were relieved of the weariness caused by walking on the country roads. Then they were dressed in attractive robes and decorated with transcendental garlands and fragrances. And said they were relieved of the weariness. What really relieved them? The sweetness of the love of their mothers. It was the sweetness of the love of their mothers that just melts the heart of God. So they were this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful description. We can also have a beautiful appreciation just for the Vedic literatures in and of itself that give us this beautiful, intimate details of the intimate relationships of God and His devotees. Jananya puhartam prasya swadvanam upalalitau samvishyavara sukam sushupaturvaje. After dining sumptuously on the delicious food given them by their mothers and being pampered in various ways, the two brothers lay down upon their excellent beds and happily went to sleep in the village of Braj. These verses are like Vrindavan in a nutshell, right? Dining sumptuously on the delicious food. And all the examples we gave of Krishna accepting offerings, however meager and simple they are, were all related to food. The fruit vendor, the Sudama Brahmin and the chipped rice, Vidura offering the the banana peel. So what makes something delicious? It's the formula that Ananda Bihari mentioned. Patram pushpam phalam yo pacham pushpam. Let's look it up. Let's get the whole thing. Yo me bhakti pranat shashi. Let's look it up. 926. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tad aham bhaktyupahritam ashnami prayat atmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. For the intelligent person, Prabhupada says, it is essential to be in Krishna consciousness, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, in order to achieve a permanent blissful abode for eternal happiness. The process of achieving such a marvelous result is very easy, and can be attempted even by the poorest of the poor, without any kind of qualification. The only qualification required in this connection is to be a pure devotee of the Lord. It does not matter what one is or where one is situated. The process is so easy that even a leaf or a little water or fruit can be offered to the Supreme Lord in genuine love, and the Lord will be pleased to accept it. No one, therefore, can be barred from Krishna consciousness because it is so easy and universal. Who is such a fool that he does not want to be Krishna conscious by this simple method, and thus attain the highest perfection, a life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge? Krishna wants only a loving service and nothing more. Krishna accepts even a little flower from his pure devotee. He does not want any kind of offering from a non-devotee. He is not in need of anything from anyone because he is self-sufficient, and yet he accepts the offering of his devotee in an exchange of love and affection. To develop Krishna consciousness is the highest perfection of life. Bhakti is mentioned twice in this verse in order to declare more emphatically that bhakti, or devotional service, is the only means to approach Krishna. No other condition, such as becoming a Brahmin or learned scholar, a very rich man or a great philosopher, can induce Krishna to accept some offering. Without the basic principle of bhakti, nothing can induce the Lord to agree to accept anything from anyone. Bhakti is never causal. The process is eternal. It is direct action in service to the absolute whole. It's a beautiful purport. It goes on. We won't read the whole thing. So, after dining sumptuously on the delicious food given them by their mothers, we can understand that he ate because it was imbued with the sentiments of bhakti. Imbued with the sentiments of bhakti. And being pampered in various ways, we can answer that question. How am I pampering Krishna today? How can I pamper Krishna? The two brothers lay down upon their excellent beds and happily. Why happily? Because they were full from the offerings of love of their devotees. And they went to sleep in the village in Braj. And what is Braj? Braj is the place where these loving dealings are going on. And even in a place like New York City, we strive to create this atmosphere of Vrindavan through our loving dealings to Krishna and with each other. That we can see each other as representatives of Krishna in our life and serve each other in a way that we would let Krishna know that we love him, because when we love Krishna, we love his devotees and we serve his devotees. And so we aspire to create this mood, to generate these sacred little atmospheres in the temples, at the Bhakti Center, in our homes, wherever we go. We can invite Krishna to sleep in the village of Braj in our heart by the dealings and interactions we create. We can create Vrindavan in any moment with the intentionality that we put behind our actions. Krishna is never far from us. He just requires us to remember him. And so this is the mood of Braj, this is the scene of Braj, this is what we strive to create in our everyday lives. Gail had a hand up again. Let's hear it.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, when you were reading that verse from the Gita, and as you were saying just now, intentionality, I was thinking of that story where the sweet rice story, right? Where one devotee was making sweet rice in his mind to offer to Krishna, and he wanted to test it, and it ended up being too hot in his mind, so he ended up burning his fingers you know.
Mm.
So I was thinking of that story because, you know, no, in the verse it says, you know, no matter how poor you are, right, you can offer something. So you don't even have to offer something real. It could be in your mind. That's how little resources you have to have in order to make an
Mm.
offering. You could just do it in your mind, you know. I mean, I think he must have been a very elevated person for him to actually burnt his hand on imaginary sweet rice. But you know, the point is that you don't have to have you have to have literally nothing, you know, to
That's a
be
really
able.
beautiful example, Gail. That's so. Thank you for bringing that up. Does anybody know another example of somebody offering Krishna something in their mind when they had no other facilities to do so?
Yeah, Bhima Prabhu was once arrested, and he was doing puja. He was taking prasadam in his mind and offering it to Krishna and cooking very elaborately for Krishna. Right, Bhima Prabhu? Is that
Yeah.
a relevant example?
Yeah, we were. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Um, very quickly. We were starving at the time. We had no choice. That's all we had was imaginary food. So we did the whole preparation in our minds. It was myself and another devotee in a jail cell for the weekend. It had been 3 days since we had eaten because they would only give us meat, knowing full well we were vegetarians. And so we did a full cook out and everything, including burning the chapatis. And after we ate, we didn't know what to expect. We just went through the motions. Everybody else in that dorm room of a jail cell was dorm was thinking we were crazy in the head, just like everybody else in there. And long story short, the next day after we saw the magistrate for distribution, solicitation, selling books without permit or whatever it was, we were full. We did not we looked at each other and said, Prabhu, I mean, are you hungry? And no, I'm not hungry. We were completely satisfied by the one imaginary meal that we had made, and that was one of the most poignant um, experiences that I've ever had on the importance of mana seva. So
Hare
thank you
Krishna.
for mentioning that. Hare
Th-
Krishna.
Thank you. Champuk looks like she's getting her head real close to the Zoom screen, like she wants to say something.
Yeah. Also, Nrsimha Brahmachari and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's in his mind, he's paving the roads with jewels for Lord Chaitanya to walk on. And when he gets to a certain place, he can't keep doing it. He knew that Lord Chaitanya wouldn't go past that place. And that's true, Lord Chaitanya didn't.
Beautiful. Nrsimha Brahmachari and Chaitanya Charitamrita. Beautiful. Thank you. I'm also thinking of the example of Vasudev when Krishna was born in jail. That Vasudev had to offer so many things in his mind on the occasion of the birth of his son, because he was in prison. He didn't have anything. So he was offering cows to the brahmanas and giving away so much charity in his mind because he didn't have any faculties to do so. Gail's got a hand up. Let's hear it, Gail.
Oh,
Tell
I'm
us about
sorry.
all your beautiful offerings in your mind.
No, I'm sorry. I just never put my hand down. But I too was thinking of the jewel thing that Chumpuk, yeah, that she told to. But no, I just never put my hand down. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, you keep it up as long as you need.
But you know, since you gave me the floor, I will mention one thing that you know, we were saying that how important it is to appreciate the small service of the devotees. And it reminded me too of an instruction that I hear often, which is that we should actually value that inspired side of the devotees more than their conditioning, which can be challenging. But, you know, we should, you know, because sometimes, you know, our conditioning can kind of overshadow, you know, our service to Krishna, especially if it's interfering with your own sense gratification. But you know, we're meant to actually give more weight and more value to the service that we do, no matter how small, than the negative side.
Thank you. It's 8 o'clock in New York now, so I don't know when the darshan is. Is there any other questions or comments or that anybody had? Is the darshan ready, or
Well,
do they need a little
just
bit more time?
one last comment from me. I was impressed by Bhima Prabhu's story, because I was thinking that the person who burned his finger in the sweet rice was pretty elevated, to actually have his finger be burnt. But for him to feel actually full from his imaginary meal, I think that's another whole level too.
Haribol, Haribol, Haribol.
Where did that happen, Bhima Prabhu? Because you said
in
magistrate.
Texas, where they don't like the Hare Krishnas. They do not like the Hare Krishna. They said, when we said we're vegetarians, we can't have bologna sandwiches. They said, what do you think this place is? A hotel? They gave us the bologna. They put the bologna in the middle.
Jai ho.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. The
Yeah,
darshan will-
you have to move the vehicle.
Thank you. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Jamuna Jaya, Bruce, Bhima Prabhu. So nice to see you live. Bhakti Devi, we saw you earlier. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Wonderful class. Bhima Prabhu, your story is very inspiring. See how advanced you are. Now we know. Now we all know. Bhima Acharya, Suzanne, Preeti Chaturvedi, Amrita Kishori, Immortal Kishori, Sharmila, Angel, Gail. Gail, never put your hands down. We're surrendering to Krishna. We keep our hands up. Dana Krishna's Radharani, rich on the path of devotion. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Have a wonderful day. This is not a luxury hotel. This place is not for us to enjoy. There's nothing for us here, nothing. Only bologna sandwiches, but that's not acceptable. So let's keep going with our devotional service. Let's stick to one another. And like we always say, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends, never stops. Come back tomorrow for more nectar, for more fruit,